Good morning, TikTok and YouTube. We're back to read Calming the Fearful Mind, a Zen Response to Terrorism by Thich, Nhat, Hanh. I'm Ash Eric of Ash Eric Meditation. We're back for chapter 2. We're going to start on the second part of 7 parts of this book. And then if you like this and you can't stay for the whole time, you can find this on YouTube later today. The first part that I read yesterday is on YouTube right now. So you can find me there. Thank you for the likes. As Asheric Meditation, ASHERIC Meditation. Thank you for the likes, guys. And good morning. I hope everyone's having a good day. Got my coffee. I hope you've got coffee too, or something lovely to sip on this morning. And we're just going to jump right back in. All right. Chapter 2. Compassion is our best protection. The revelation of abuse of prisoners of the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba provides us the opportunity to look deeply into the nature of war. This is an opportunity for us to be more aware, for these abuses reveal the truth about what actually goes on during war and conflict. This isn't new. Everywhere that there is war, there is abuse and torture of prisoners. Soldiers are trained to kill as many people as possible and as quickly as possible. Soldiers are told that if they do not kill, they will be killed. They're taught that killing is good because the people they are trying to kill are dangerous to society. Please don't report my reading. There's a bunch of words in here that I don't think TikTok likes, but we'll keep going. They're taught that killing is good because the people they are trying to kill are dangerous to society, that the others are demons and our nation would be better off without them. Soldiers are trained to believe they must kill the other group because these others aren't human beings. If soldiers see their enemies as human beings just like themselves, they would have no courage to kill them. Every one of us should be aware of how soldiers are trained, whether or not we think we agree with the fighting. It is important not to blame and single out any country. The situation is more of a consequence of our way of fighting rather than something particular to the United States. During the Vietnam War, atrocities were committed by both sides. When the torture was revealed, President Bush responded by saying that the U.S. has sent dedicated young soldiers, not abusers, to Iraq. This statement showed a lack of understanding of war. That shocked me because the torture and abuse these soldiers engaged in was a direct result of the training they had undergone. The training already makes them lose their humanity. The young men going to Iraq arrive there already full of fear, wanting to protect themselves at all costs, pressured by their superiors to be aggressive, act quickly, and be ready to kill anyone at any moment. When you are engaged in the act of killing, aware that fellow soldiers on your side are dying every day and that the possibility for you to be killed at any moment, you are filled with fear, anger, and despair. In this state, you can become extremely cruel. You may pour all of your hate and anger onto the prisoners of war by torturing and abusing them. The purpose of your violence is not primarily to extract information from them, but to express your hate and fear. The prisoners of war are the victims, but the abusers, the torturers, are also the victims. Their actions will continue to disturb them long after the abuse has ended. Even if the superiors of the individual soldier have not directly given orders to mistreat, abuse, or torture, they are still responsible for what happened. Preparing for war and fighting a war means allowing our human nature to die. That's a really good sentence. Well, let's listen to that one again. Preparing for war and fighting a war means allowing our human nature to die. Defending ourselves without violence. There are many other ways to defend ourselves. Through diplomatic foreign policy, forming alliances with other countries, humanitarian assistance. There are all approaches motivated by the wisdom of interbeing. When we use these approaches to resolve conflicts, the army doesn't have to do much. They can serve the people by building bridges and roads and mediating small conflicts. This is not idealistic thinking. Armies have worked this way in the past. With good foreign policy, the army will not have to fight. If you're just joining me now, we're reading Calming the Fearful Mind, A Zen Response to Terrorism by Thich, Nhat, Hanh. Of course, when a country is invaded, the army should resist and defend the people. It is also sometimes necessary for the other countries to help a country that is being invaded. But that is quite different from attacking other countries out of national interest. The only really necessary and appropriate circumstance under which an army should resort to violence is to physically defend itself or an ally from direct invasion. And even in this case, much suffering will result. Military action can be compassionate, but the compassion must be real compassion. If compassion is only a screen masking anger and fear, it is useless. It upsets me that former generations have committed the same mistakes and yet we don't learn from them. We haven't learned enough from the war in Vietnam. There were so many atrocities committed there. So many innocent people were tortured and killed because they were perceived as either communist or anti-communist. Mindfulness has so many layers. When we kill because we think that the other person is evil and that killing will bring peace, we are not practicing right mindfulness. If we are mindful, we will see beyond the present situation to the root and to the future consequences of our actions in that moment. If we are truly mindful, other insights will arise. This person I want to kill is a living being. Is there any chance for him to behave better and change his present harmful state of mind? Maybe I have a wrong perception, and one day I will see that he is just a victim of misunderstanding and not really the evil person I think he is. Mindfulness can help the soldier to see that he may just be an instrument for killing, being used by his government. So how that rings true to today. When did he write this book? Where are we here? Copyright 2005. So he's talking about all sorts of stuff that makes sense today. That's why I want to read this book for you. A general who is mindful of his actions is capable of looking deeply. He may not need to use weapons. He will see that there are many other ways to deter the opposite side, and he will exhaust all other means before resorting to violence. When nothing else works, he may use violence, but out of compassion, not out of anger. Preserving our humanity. Some soldiers are able to remain compassionate, treating prisoners and others kindly despite their military training. These individuals are lucky enough to have received a spiritual heritage of kindness and goodness that stays at least partially intact, even through their training. This heritage is transmitted by parents, teachers, and community. Their humanity is preserved to some extent, even if they have been damaged during their training. So they are still able to be shocked by their fellow soldiers' acts of torture, and perhaps to practice right action and alert the world to torture that is being committed. But many soldiers don't have this spiritual heritage. They come from families with much suffering and have already experienced violence and oppression before entering the army. For most people, it is possible to lose all their humanity in the process of military training. Thank you for the likes, guys. Compassionate killing can only be done by bodhisattvas, awakened beings. In combat situations, the majority of us kill because we are afraid of being killed. So most of us are not capable of killing out of love. When our dog or horse that we love very much is suffering from a terminal sickness, we are capable of killing it to stop it from suffering. We are motivated by love. I feel like there's like a different word is appropriate instead of, killing out of compassion. We'll see if he has a different word for that here. But most people in our army aren't motivated in this way. The best is not to kill at all. When you kill for your country to defend your fellow citizens, it isn't good, but still it is better than invading other countries in the name of democracy and freedom. History has shown us that the countries in the U.S. has invaded to help have not become more democratic and free. Prime Minister Tony Blair said that the UK is committed to democracy and freedom in Iraq. If we use this kind of justification, we could invade many countries because there are many that do not have enough freedom and democracy, including our own. Torture is never justified. There is no good cause for torture. As a torturer, you are the first to be a victim because you lose all of your humanity. You do harm to yourself in the act of harming others. If you had a good cause to begin with, it is lost when you torture another human being. No cause can justify this kind of violence. When we imagine situations where torture could be justified, we jump to conclusions too quickly and too easily. It is not so simple. Good morning, Mo. Pardon me. When we imagine situations where torture could be justified, we jump to conclusions too quickly and too easily. It is not so simple. Torturing someone will not always give us the result we wish for. If the prisoner in custody does not tell us the information we want, it is because they do not want their people, their fellow soldiers, to be killed. They withhold information out of compassion, out of faithfulness to their cause. Sometimes they give out wrong information, and sometimes they really don't know anything at all. And there are those who prefer to die rather than to give in to the torture. I am absolutely against torture. Other forms of pressure or firmness may be acceptable, but not torture. When we have fear and anger in us, it is very easy to create a pretext for torturing a prisoner. When we have compassion, we can always find another way. When you torture a living being, you die as a human being because their suffering is your own suffering. When you perform surgery on someone, you know the surgery will help him, and that is why you can cut into his body. But when you cut into somebody's body and mind to get information from them, you cut into your own life. You kill yourself. Your life is no longer worth living. We must look at why we are engaged in war and how we have become involved in things like this. So the problem is long-term, not just looking at the immediate situation of torture. We have to learn how to prevent situations from escalating to this point. We can do things every day to create more peaceful and harmonious relations with the countries and other peoples, with other countries and other peoples. Why do we wait until the situation is so bad and then say we have to resort to the most atrocious means to stop it? We can do much better by taking care of the conflict compassionately from the very beginning. People usually think in extreme terms of absolute nonviolence and violence. But there are many shades of gray in between. The way we talk, eat, walk can be violent. We are not dogmatic, worshiping the idea of nonviolence because absolute nonviolence is impossible. But it is always possible to be less violent. When we have understanding and compassion in us, we have a good chance. When we are motivated by fear and anger, we are already victims. No cause is worthy enough to be served by this state of being. A truly good cause is always motivated by compassion. Our collective karma. An act of cruelty is born of many conditions coming together, not by any separate individual actor. When we hold retreats for war veterans, I tell them that they are the flame at the tip of the candle. They are the ones who feel the heat, but the whole candle is burning, not only the flame. All of us are responsible. The very ideas of terrorism and imagined weapons of mass destruction are already the result of a collective mentality, a collective way of thinking and speaking. The media helped the war happen by supporting these ideas through speech and writing. Thought, speech, and action are all collective karma. No one can say that they are responsible for the current situation, even if we oppose our country's actions. We are still members of our community, citizens of our country. Maybe we have not done enough. We must ally ourselves with bodhisattvas, great awakened beings, who are around us in order to transform our way of thinking and that of our society. Because wrong thinking is at the base of our present situation, thinking that has no wisdom or compassion. And we can do things every day, in every moment of our daily life, to nourish the seeds of peace, compassion, and understanding in us and in those around us. We can live in such a way that can heal our collective karma and ensure that these atrocities will not happen again in the future. Don't be tempted to use the army to solve conflicts. The only situation in which we use the army is to defend our country during an invasion. But even in this circumstance, we should not rely heavily on the army. We must find other ways to protect ourselves. In the past, the U.S. was loved by many of us in the world because the U.S. represented freedom, democracy, peace, and care for other countries. The U.S. has lost this image and must rebuild it. They're talking about this in 2005. That's 21 years ago. So we've known this for a while. In the past, when I would go to the U.S. Embassy for a visa, it was not heavily guarded. But now, all over the world, American embassies are surrounded by tight security and heavily armed guards. Fear has taken over us. It is the primary motivation for many of the U.S. government's actions because we don't know how to protect ourselves with compassion. Students of political science must learn this in university so that they can bring real wisdom into politics. Compassion is not naive or stupid. It goes hand in hand with intelligence. Love is the same. Real love is born from understanding. A knife to kill or chop vegetables. Soldiers from armies around the world have asked me how to reconcile their desire for mindfulness and peace with their occupations as soldiers. If as a soldier you have understanding and compassion in you, the military force may help prevent something or achieve something. But that shouldn't keep us from seeing that there are other kinds of force that may be even more powerful. We don't know how to recognize and make use of the methods, so we always have cause to resort to military force. This spiritual force is also very powerful. It is much safer to use the powerful spiritual, social, and educational forces. Because we have not been trained to use these forces, we only think of using military force. Suppose there are two people, both of them full of anger, misunderstanding, and hatred. How can these two people talk to each other? And how can they negotiate for peace? That is the main problem. You cannot bring people together to sit around a table and discuss peace if there is no peace inside of them. You have to first help them to calm down and begin to see clearly that we and other people suffer. We should have compassion for ourselves and for them and their children. This is possible. As human beings, we have suffered, so we have the capacity to understand the suffering of other people. The spiritual and educational dimensions can be very powerful, and we should use them as instruments, tools for peace. For example, suppose you live in a quarter or a village where Palestinians live peacefully with Israelis. You don't have any problems. You share the same environment. You go shopping in the same place. You ride on the same bus. You enjoy. You don't see your differences as obstacles, but as enriching. You are an Israeli and she is a Palestinian, and you meet each other in the marketplace and you smile to each other. How beautiful, how wonderful. You help her and she helps you. Such places exist, and such images should be seen by other Palestinians and Israelis. The same thing is true for Iraqis and Americans with Pakistanis and Indians. If you are a writer, you can bring that image to many people outside of your group. If you are a filmmaker, why don't you offer an image of peaceful coexistence to the world? You can televise it to demonstrate that it is possible for two groups that have fought to live peacefully and happily together. That is the work of education. There are a lot of people in the mass media who are ready to help bring that image, that message to the world. That is very powerful. More powerful than a bomb, a rocket, or a gun. It makes people believe that peace is possible. If you have enough energy of understanding and peace inside of you, then this kind of educational work can be very powerful. And you won't have to think of the army and of guns anymore. If the army knows how to practice, it will know how to act in such a way as to not cause harm. The army can rescue people. The army can guarantee peace and order. It is like a knife. If you can use a knife to kill, or you can use a knife to chop vegetables. It is possible for soldiers to practice nonviolence and understanding. We don't exclude them from our practice, from our Sangha. We don't say, you are a soldier, you cannot come into our meditation hall. In fact, you need to come into our meditation hall in order to know how to better use the army, how to better be in the army. So, please don't limit your question to such a small area. Make your question broad. Embrace the whole situation, because everything is linked to everything else. Every bit of our understanding, compassion, and peace is useful. It is gold. There are many things we can do today to increase these capacities in ourselves. When you take a step, if you can enjoy that step, if your step can bring you more stability and freedom, then you are serving the world. It is with that kind of peace and stability that you can serve. If you don't have the qualities of stability, peace, and freedom inside you, then no matter what you do, you cannot help the world. It is not about doing something. It's about being something. Being peace, being hope, being solid. Every action will come out of that, because peace, stability, and freedom always seek a way to express themselves in action. This is the spiritual dimension of our reality. We need that spiritual dimension to rescue us so that we don't think only in terms of military force as a means to solve the problem and uproot terrorism. How can you uproot terrorism with military force? The military doesn't know where terrorism is. Pardon me, I lost my spot. The military doesn't know where terrorism is. They cannot locate terrorism. It is in the heart. The more military force you use, the more terrorists you create in your own country and in other countries as well. If you're just tuning in, we're reading Calming the Fearful Mind, a Zen Response to Terrorism by Thich, Nhat, Hanh. We're on part 2 of 7. The basic issue is our practice of peace, our practice of looking deeply. First of all, we need to allow ourselves to calm down. Without tranquility and serenity, our emotions, anger and despair will not go away, and we will not be able to look and see the nature of reality. Calming down, becoming serene, is the first step in meditation. The second step is to look deeply to understand. Out of understanding comes compassion. And from this foundation of understanding and compassion, you will be able to see what you can do and what you should refrain from doing. This is meditation. Every one of us has to practice meditation. The politicians, the military, the businessmen, all of us have to practice calming down and looking deeply. You have the support of all of us in doing this. Mindful consequences. Of course, it is very difficult to not get angry when someone is killing your wife, your husband, or your children. It is very difficult not to get angry. That person is acting out of anger, and we are retaliating also out of anger. So there is not much difference between the two of us. That is the first element. The second element is, why do we have to wait until the situation presents itself to us as an emergency before we act, dealing only with the immediate circumstance? Of course, you have to act rapidly in such an emergency situation. But what if we are not in an emergency situation? We can wait for an emergency situation to arise, or we can do something in order to prevent such a thing from happening. Our tendency is not to do anything until the worst happens. We will have the time. We do not know how to use that time to practice peace and prevent war. We just allow ourselves to indulge in forgetfulness and sense pleasures. We do not do the things that have the power to prevent such emergency situations from happening. The third element is that when things like this happen, it is because there is a deep-seated cause, not only in the present moment, but also in the past. This is because that is. Nothing happens without cause. You kill me, I kill you. But the fact that you are killing me and I am killing you has its roots in the past and will have an effect on the future. Our children will say, "You killed my grandfather, now I have to kill you." That can go on for a long time. When you get angry, when you have so much hatred towards the person who has made you suffer, and when you are willing to use any means to destroy him, you are acting out of anger just like he is. And anger is not the only cause. There are also misunderstandings, wrong perceptions about each other, and there are people who urge us to kill the other side because otherwise we will not be safe. There are many causes. In the past, our fathers and our grandfathers may not have been very mindful and may have said things and done things that have sown seeds of war. And their grandfathers also said things and did things planting seeds of war. And now our generation has a choice. Do we want to do better than our grandfathers, or do we want to repeat exactly what they did? That is the legacy we will leave for our children and our grandchildren. Of course, in a situation of great emergency, you have to do everything you can to prevent killing. And yet there are ways to do that, and yet there are ways to do it that will cause less harm. If you have some compassion and understanding, the way you do it can be very different. Bring the dimension of the human heart into it. Help the military strategists to have a human heart. It's the least we can do. Do we teach the military to conduct a military operation with a human heart? Is that a reality in the army, in military schools? They teach us how to kill as many people as possible and as quickly as possible, but they do not teach us how to kill someone with compassion. In one of his past lives, in one of his past lives, it seems that the Buddha was a passenger on a boat that was overtaken by pirates. And he killed one of them while trying to protect the people on the boat. But that was in an earlier life of the Buddha, before he was an awakened being. If the true Buddha were there, he may have had other means. He may have had enough wisdom to find a better way so that the life of the pirate could have been spared. Because in life after life, the Buddha made progress. You are the afterlife of your grandfather. You must have learned something of the past 3 generations. If you don't have more compassion and understanding than he did, then you have not properly continued your grandfather. Because with compassion and understanding, we can do better. We can cause less harm and create more peace. We cannot expect to achieve 100% peace right away. Our degree of understanding and love is not yet deep enough. Pardon me. My voice. We cannot expect to achieve 100% peace right away. Our degree of understanding and love is not yet deep enough. But in every situation, urgent or not, the elements of understanding and compassion can play a role. When a gangster is trying to beat and kill, of course you have to lock him up so he will not cause more harm. But you can lock him up angrily with a lot of hate, or you can lock him up with compassion and with the idea that we should do something to help him. In that case, prison becomes a place where there is love and help. You have to teach the prison guards how to look at the prisoners with compassionate eyes. Teach them how to treat the prisoners with tenderness so they will suffer less in prison, so we can better help them. Do we train them to look at prisoners with eyes of compassion? Perhaps a prisoner has killed, has destroyed. Maybe he was raised in such a way that killing and destruction were natural for him, and so he is a victim of society, of his family, and of his education. If as a prison guard, you look and see him in that way, you will have compassion and understanding and treat your prisoner with more gentleness. When you help this person to become a better person, you help yourself to be happy. We should not focus only on short-term action. Again, we have to look with the eyes of the Buddha. We must train ourselves to look at things with a broad perspective and not just concentrate on the immediacy of the problem. That is what our lives are for, and so are the lives of our children. We are a continuation of each other. We built synagogues, churches, and mosques in order to have a place to sit down and do that. To look deeply so that our actions will not only be motivated by desire, greed, or anger. We have a chance to sit in the mosque, the church, or synagogue for a long time, and in that time our compassion and understanding should grow, and then we will know how to act in the world in a better way for the cause of peace. As a soldier, you can be compassionate. You can be loving, and your gun can be helpful. There are times you may not have to use your gun. It is like that knife that is used to cut vegetables. You can be a bodhisattva as a soldier or as a comrade in the army. The question is whether you have the understanding and compassion in your heart. That is the question. That concludes section 2 of Calming the Fearful Mind, a Zen Response to Terrorism by Thich, Nhat, Hanh. Again, I'm Ash Eric of Ash Eric Meditation, and this reading is going to be uploaded to my YouTube so that you can come back and listen to all 7 parts. Again, my YouTube is Ash Eric Meditation, ASHERIC Meditation. All right, I'll be back tomorrow to continue section 3, titled Nourishing Peace. I hope you enjoyed today's reading, and I will see you again tomorrow.